Factors that affect the amount of time parents need to commit in homeschooling. You just spent 8 hours making reports, filing papers, fielding phone calls, and placating your boss at the office. When you get home, do you rest? Not really. There's a dinner to prepare, stories to share with your husband, and doing homework with the kids. Such a scenario is, and will still be, typical among working mothers, who balance the countless demands of career and home 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The problem with this is that the children are the ones who are always at the losing end. Why? Because with parents, especially mothers, who are always busy with their work, they tend to take their children for granted, especially on the aspect of education. They have this propensity to submit their children to school and believe that the institution could provide the best education for their children. However, in today's changing world, some parents realize that sending their children to school is no longer the best way in providing them the education that their children need. That's why they have opted for homeschooling in order to give their children the kind of learning that they want for their children. In homeschooling, most parents devote their time and try to provide their children the best education at home. They know that they are the ones who can provide the appropriate teaching approach for their children because they know their children best. However, it does not necessarily mean that parents should devote more time to homeschooling than they would do with their other chores at home. It is true that homeschooling needs time in order to come up with the best teaching approach that your children need. It is also through a committed schedule that you can identify the appropriate tactics that you need to employ in order to teach your children well. But it does not mean that you have to give your whole time to teaching your children through homeschooling programs. On its basic concept, homeschooling uses the one-to-one teaching method. Hence, it needs lesser time compared to the typical classroom setting. This is because with a more individualistic approach in teaching, most children would be able to grasp the concept easier and faster. Then again, the amount of time to be allotted in homeschooling will still vary depending on the many factors that may affect the progress of the teaching process. Here is a list of some factors that should be considered in order to devise the proper amount of time needed in homeschooling. 1. Learning style of the children. There are instances wherein the children's learning style might affect the time requirement in homeschooling. For instance, if your child can learn things at a much faster rate, then you only have to devote lesser time. However, if your child needs more time to grasp things that are being taught to him, then you have to devote more time in explaining to him or her the concept of the subject matter you are teaching. 2. The type of methods used. There are various teaching methods available for homeschooling. Each has its own teaching approach. Hence, they may vary on the time needed for the parents to devote on each program. Watch the video to learn more. Enjoying the video? Then give it a like and share it with your friends to help the channel. 3. The number of children within the family. Just like in a typical classroom setting, where the number of students is generally bigger, having many children in the family would mean longer hours of teaching. This is because you have to incorporate in students what the subject matter is all about, and if one of them could not yet understand the idea, then you really have to explain the concept all over again. 4. The age of the child. The younger the child, the more time that is needed in homeschooling. This is because younger children have the tendency to grasp the things being taught at a much slower pace compared to those who are already at higher levels. On its total view, the time needed to commit in homeschooling may be affected with these factors, but the important thing is to have quality time for your children or students. It is not a matter of how much time you can devote in homeschooling, but more on how you have provided the time in teaching your children. Thank you for your time. Don't forget hit the subscribe button.